Alright, this meeting and all other meetings of the council are open to the public. Proper notice has been posted and given to the press in accordance with Wisconsin statutes so that citizens may be aware of the time and place and agenda of this meeting. Start the meeting off with a roll call.
Nadowski,
Here.
Appleby,
Here.
Kim. Here.
Alright, next, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from July 18th.
I'll second that.
Alright, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Alright, next we have citizens appearances, which we do not have any today. Next we have our municipal building construction update from Corey, right?
Yep, so I will call Corey, get him on the phone. Hi Corey, Patrick from Weyauwega. So we just got to you on the agenda here, and what I'm going to do is put you on speaker, and I may have to step out, but I'll still have you in front of the committee here though, okay? Okay, so we've got you on speaker right now.
Alright,
Alrighty.
ready
We
when you
are.
are.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay. So we just want to go through that change order then, item by item?
Yes.
Alrighty. Well, I'll just start here with number one. The first one was early on in the project we negotiated for the utility cost, and this is a credit for the gas and electric and for the amount of $12,891.56.
Okay.
Any questions on that one?
Nope, pretty straightforward.
The second one is the cost for supervision. This is related to the additional items that were requested. It was 16 hours at $85 an hour for a grand total of $1,360. And those items will be a little bit further on in the change order here. We'll be going through it. There's a note on there that includes discusses where it includes the supervision. So I'll go through that as we go forward here. Is there any questions so far on that?
Nope.
No.
The next one is the elevator shaft revision. Early on in the project, we worked with IMO and their shoring engineer to change out the foundations on the elevator shaft. It's right at the, well, it's actually the footing for the foundations on the elevator shaft. We call that a strip footing, and rather than doing a strip footing, we discussed with IMO doing a pad footing, which was better for the disruption to the existing building foundations, and they could put the sump right into the base slab. It was a better design. We do them both ways. This one, we decided to change just for the betterment of the project. So after all the shoring negotiations occurred, we went back to, we disputed the claim right away because we felt it could have been wrapped up into those negotiations, and now that is settled, we decided to go ahead and recommend that this be paid. So, any questions there?
No.
Okay. The next one is similar. It's an eccentric footing. There's a column and a pad footing that was adjacent to the wall building, and that was, we had it specified as a square footing rather than having additional disruption to the existing building. It was better to put a strip footing in, well, not a strip footing, but it was a pad footing, but it was longer and not as square, which actually probably in the long run is going to be better for potential settlement issues. So there was some additional concrete for that, so that one was $293.96. So any questions there?
Nope.
No. Our next item, item 5, is CB17. This was some additional window blinds that was requested throughout the facility. This item did not include IMO supervision time, so that's where that goes back to the item 2, but this was $700.42. So,
Okay.
no questions, I'll move forward. Item 6 is CB18 elevator exhaust. The elevator that was specified, there's nothing in the code that requires it to be exhausted. However, during inspection, the elevator inspector decided that, or determined that the elevator shaft should be exhausted. So again, this would not include demo supervision time, which is part of item 2. Since it was a finding of the inspector, we tried to dispute it. I talked to a couple code officials, and they said, well, it's all dependent on the elevator and the inspector, so this will have to be completed prior to the next inspection, so we recommend it become as part of the project.
This is a state inspector.
Okay.
Pardon me?
And I just clarify that that's the state inspector that had come and ordered that, not our own building inspector.
Correct, that is the state building inspector. So, for questions, I'll move forward on to item number 7. Item number 7 is, it was a temporary patch out in the asphalt. During construction, we sent out a CB. They didn't have to patch quite as much. We requested a credit for that. Originally, IMO gave us a credit of $1,062.70. We went back and forth trying to get more money. IMO said, well, there is no money, so we just said, okay, let's go back to what you originally offered as a credit. It would, in our opinion, we would like to get more for this. However, we've really pushed the envelope. We fought with them, and they were not willing to go anymore, so we put it in at the original quoted credit. So I don't know if there's any questions on that.
Basically, what we're looking at is when they put in the water lines, everything that was inside the fence,
Yep.
we didn't have them pave. Everything outside we did. So we're looking for a credit on what we didn't have them pave that we ultimately did with the parking lot project.
Yep.
But
Yeah.
it's an adventure back and forth. Okay.
Okay, it's breaking up a little bit on my end, so I couldn't hear everything you were saying. But
You're just giving the breakdown of the. He's just giving the breakdown of.
This is related to door 209 in the upper level. It's in the new part of the building towards the south end of the back. This was to add additional door hardware for access control. This one again does not include IMO supervision, which is part of item number 2. So this was a request made on behalf of the city. So I don't know if there's any questions there.
No.
Okay. The next item, item 9, door 114. This is a doorway that goes from the city hall office lobby or waiting area into the city hall. It's the same thing. It was an additional request, and the supervision is part of item number 2. So this was $1,510.21.
Okay.
Item number 10, we had in our specifications, we called out for a directory sign. The sign was basically to say City Hall main level, council chambers. At one time, that office at the back end, we weren't certain what that was going to be used for. That could have been indicated where that was. So it was just more of a lobby directory. Since that's not being installed, we asked for a credit, and the credit for that was $75.
Okay.
No questions. I'll move on to item number 11. This was for the laundry exhaust. So when we relocated the laundry room out of the south end of the basement towards the middle floor of the building, the ductwork for the dryer was lengthened, and the building inspector has now requested that a booster fan be installed in that exhaust duct. This again does not include IMO supervision time, which is part of item number 2. So this was $1,419.33. And just to clarify, this is actually the state building inspector that requested that.
Okay.
So, and then on top of all this, for the additional work or request, we've included 14 calendar days to IMO's contract for them to complete this work. That being said, they have 14 calendar days. They have not provided us a schedule of when they're going to do that work, and we're trying to get that information. I sent Kevin with IMO another email here today to try to find out what their schedule is to get that work completed. So.
Yeah, because I guess the next place we would look at is if we were going to do any penalties and whatnot
I
for
don't
the
know if there's
completion
any other
time.
questions or anything I can answer on that change order.
No, the change order seems pretty straightforward. I guess it's just more so when Immel's gonna get it done and get this complete, because, I mean, currently they're quite a bit behind on this finish work. So,
Yeah.
that'd be it.
Did we mention the countertop? Give you an update on that?
No,
No.
So, last month's meeting, you had approved getting the countertop cut out.
yep,
Immel provided a price to get it done. Corey, can you hear me?
Yep, yeah, I
Okay.
can hear you good now.
Okay, so Immel provided a price, and then when it was meeting time, after we knew that we had approved an option, came to meeting time, Immel had indicated that they're not willing to do the work at all, that they're not going to do it. We have to figure out who to get. So we've contacted some people, working with Cedar on, so.
okay,
But we are looking at getting that done, and we are looking at getting that done within the next 2 weeks,
good,
so.
alright,
In other items too, the rear wall of council chambers, I'm sure you can see there has been repainted. I looked at it on Friday. It appears that all the flashing from beneath the paint is remedied, and Immel will be providing us a schedule one to repair the other areas as well. So they still have a little touch-up and painting to do, but they'll do that as part of the final repair.
okay. Alright,
Anything else that you'd like me to go over, or Patrick, anything you'd like me to expand upon?
No, I think at this point we're pretty good. I don't know if you mentioned, we do owe a couple $100,000 on the project. We do not have a pay request yet. What we're looking at is we're just gonna do one final at the end. And for sure, there's gonna be one more change order after this one, so.
Yep.
Right now, we're not paying them, and
Okay.
we need them to get the work done, so.
Well.
Okay?
sounds pretty
Good
straightforward.
enough.
Okay,
Alright,
very
thank you,
good.
Corey.
Thank you, Corey.
Alright, thank you guys.
Alright, thank you.
Alright, I guess if there's no questions, I'll make a motion to approve change order number 7 for a credit of $3,902.79.
I'll second that.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Alright. No pay requests, no owner direct purchases. So next we have, the consideration of resolution 585, which is amending the 2015 budget.
So you do in your packet, we're getting to the end of the 2015 audit, and the auditors usually put together statements to review. And what we do is when they make adjusting entries, they'll see some things that we had posted that we'll need to move. And usually what we end up doing is we modify the budget to match up with those adjusting entries and to match up with the year itself. So you did have kind of the worksheet that we're working off of to put the resolution together, which was in your packet. What we look at with the amendment to the budget is basically anything that's more than $2,000 over or below is what we're looking at amending. And so the resolution itself, I can run through it real quick, just category by category. It's 2 pages. There's one thing that's hanging out there that I have a question on related to the closing of TIF number 3, because we needed to fund to fill the bucket, I guess. So TIF 3 we owed $70-some thousand on, and we're absorbing that into the general fund, so we're gonna pay that debt down over the next couple of years. But we needed to transfer out of our cash on hand to cover that on the books. And so there's a transfer that we might have to do.
Yep.
Might have to do something a little bit different, but for now, the bones of this are before you to be reviewed and recommended for approval. What we're looking at is with the first item, we'll just talk about the changes in revenue. What we're looking at for special assessments, we did take in quite a bit more because of the Alfred Street curb and gutter, and also people that did the driveway enhancements. We special assessed for that, and so we took in a bunch more than what we had planned, to the tune of about $9,500. And intergovernmental revenues, those appear to be higher, where we've gotten more revenue by about $11,662. The regulation and compliance, obviously as we had very large projects in town, we had very large building permits, and so we get an increase in our revenue. We also had an increase in what we budgeted for court violations, citation revenue. We had $25,500, we took in $28,791. So between the building permits at $3,800, the increased court penalties at $32.91, we had increased regulation and compliance revenue of $7,099. Public charges for service, we had two items. Number one is the refuse collection. We had budgeted $110,000. We had actually taken in $105,110. What happened was, in prior years, I had increased that number. It's based on that $13 fee that we charge, and there was a little bit of an overlap where one of the months more was into the next year, so like 13 into 14. It should have been at 13, but we actually got it in 14. Or maybe it was the other way around, it's that way, where it looked like we took in closer to 109, 110. But what we're really gonna end up is closer to the $105,000 with that $13 fee that we charge. And so a modification to our budget there would be a decrease of $4,890 in revenue. The library, they do not have a budgeted amount on their fines and fees that they take in, so copying fees, fines that they charge on late items. But they did take in $7,795. Because they're part of our budget, we do need to recognize that, even though they are, a lot of that money is restricted for their use. We do, on paper, we take care of that. So the change in public charges for services then would be an increase in the category of $2,905. Commercial revenues, this is actually one of the goals I've had, is to increase the interest on the investments that we make. Now, we hit the goal and then some, but it's a little bit of a paper result, because when we took out the interim financing for City Hall and the treatment plant, what we did at the very beginning was we borrowed all the money, and then we set it aside and invested it then, and then as we were paying our bills, we would draw off of that. And so the interest that we took in, I will tell you, is probably about $3,000 more than what we had expected. It ends up being about an increase of $2,588 over and above what we budgeted, but that's real money that we earned. So we recognize the change in, it's actually commercial revenue, so there's a little bit of a typo in the category there, but it's interest, an extra $2,500. That's a total then of an additional $33,741 in revenue that we did not budget for, so that's a good thing. We took in more than we had anticipated, so it's good. The next section then is going to be the expenditures. Under the general fund change, there's two items that I will mention to you. One is under administration. In 2015, we had budgeted for a assistant position, but what we ended up doing is we knew that the public works supervisor type position is what we ended up bringing back. And so we budgeted for 9 months of another full-time person in the office, but we didn't fill it. So the $22,606, most of that, and actually all of that, is due to the fact that we budgeted for a position that we didn't fill. When it comes to elections, we had a down year. We didn't really have all that many elections, so we do have a decrease. Our property and liability insurance did increase. Our costs were about $4,112. A lot of that has to do with the fact that we prorate a lot of our costs over water, sewer, library. The cost didn't go up because we get a bill at the beginning of the year, but what's got to change is the allocation a little bit on the cost. Under miscellaneous, we did not spend $11,214 under miscellaneous. The bad news is the municipal building, we had an additional $7,000 above the budget, so we do have that here. $7,400 went over. The net there is about a $4,000 savings between those two. And then the very large item, which is an item that we're currently discussing to bring to the Finance Committee probably in September, is our municipal prosecution, the railroad prosecution, and then our city attorney in general. The part that we are going to review is the prosecution in the municipal court, because the railroad cases were in the neighborhood of $50,000. The municipal court prosecution is also in the neighborhood of about $45,000 to $50,000. Those two together, and I'd have to double check on our municipal court, 'cause I think it's a little bit higher than that. But what we had budgeted, we need an increase of about $102,000. The bulk of it, like I said, is in municipal court. A lot of it we talked about here, all of it we talked about here, but a lot of it is in catching up on historical cases, and then the railroad, while it
So we're
was sort of in,
Still playing catch up though, at this point?
well, in 2015 for
Okay,
sure.
yeah.
Right now, we are not.
Okay.
Right now,
I
yeah,
was gonna
so
say,
we're in
I remember we were
2016
talking
now.
about
So what
2016
we're talking,
and we
we're
were-
talking about 2015.
Okay,
Yep.
perfect.
I apologize, but we still, we're taking in
Far less.
$25,000 in fees and fines, and we're paying out more than that.
Yeah.
Now, that's not a bad thing, because you're paying for a service that's getting done. You're not supposed to really go and make a lot of money off of this, and that's not our intent. But if the costs are higher than what you're taking in, I think it's appropriate that you're reviewing that, making sure that
Yep. I agree.
we're going at it the most efficient way we can. So a change in the general fund then with all those items would be an addition of $80,522. Again, the very, very bulk item is under the court railroad prosecution. Comes to public safety. We have the police and then the building inspector, an increase in the police of about $14,546. The building inspector, $5,732. The building inspector gets paid off of the building permits, so as the permit revenue goes up, his payment goes up too, so we've got the big projects. He gets paid a percentage of building permits, and he gets paid mileage, and it ends up basically being close to a wash, typically.
Yeah, actually, we pay a little bit more, it looks like. About, what was
We
that?
have building permits, $10,833.
So about a couple $100 difference.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I would anticipate that in 2016 that will be up a little bit yet with the projects that we've had, but coming down, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But between those two, we have a change in public safety, $20,278 in expense. Gets to public works. This is a very good item because we did not spend as much as we had planned, so here's where we're gonna get a credit on our expenses. Obviously, snow and ice removal, we had budgeted $50,000 for the year, we spent $34,815, so that's a $15,000 credit, less an expense. Looking at the yard waste site and weed control, which is weed control when we go out and mow someone's yard. If people aren't paying the bill, which happens at a lot of these vacant houses, we end up eating the costs and we get paid back down the road. But that's an increase of $4,442. Again, that's yard waste and weed control. The tree maintenance, we had a number of trees that we're currently looking at that are dying out and being damaged. Probably still hangover from the storms from a couple years ago. But one of the streets in general, I think we're gonna talk about, I just have to find out if it's a recreation committee or a public works thing. But there's a couple of blocks where when we redid roads, we put in brand new trees all at the same time. And one of them is not on your street, but a block north
Okay.
from Mill to Mary. There's a bunch of maples and they're dying out. Starts at the Rand's house and then it goes to the west. We've had people in there to take a look at it. Trees, looks like they're dying from the top down, which is usually means they're gone. It's just a couple of years that they'll be heading out. So I don't anticipate that our tree budget for trimming, planting, cutting is going to go down.
Where do we see the benefit, from having them take down all those, pines? What category would that be?
Yep, so when they took down the pines, that was a miscellaneous revenue.
Revenue, okay.
Yeah, and it's not in the miscellaneous revenue, I think the line item is like $10,000.
Okay.
And so it's baked into that amount there, because it's a revenue because we got paid for them to go away.
Yep.
So the benefit there is that we didn't have to pay to take them down, but it's kind of an off-paper type benefit,
Okay.
if that makes sense.
Yep. Just curious.
Okay. Outside engineering, we've budgeted $7,000, but what we've spent is about $2,700. because we're looking at the 7,000 to 8,000 in the consulting fee that Cedar charges, and we prorate that over the general fund, which is what this is, and then the water and the sewer. But a lot of the project work gets assigned to the projects themselves, so like the city hall project, that's not outside engineering here, it's a project
Yeah,
engineering.
this is just the,
The consulting
contract.
agreement, right?
okay.
So we do have a savings there. The street sweeping, we had budgeted in the past for 2 at roughly $4,500. Ted was in once, and so the savings of $4,600 is that instead of getting the 2 sweepings, we had the 1 sweeping. Street lighting and signs, we had an increase in street lighting costs, and the cost there, the sign budget, we came out right about even with what we had budgeted is what we spent. The street lighting is what had gone up about $2,500. Street maintenance, a lot of the street maintenance is like storm sewers, that we did have a lot of catch basins that failed that we had to replace. That's up about $3,300. And then our garbage and refuse collection. What they do here is they wrap in the city's costs. So like when they pull from the park, they pull from City Hall, our costs to get rid of garbage are wrapped into that. And when we budgeted straight for Harder's fee.
Yep.
So the additional cost there, we'll work with our auditors on whether or not we need to be budgeting both or whether they need to. And this is very much a draft in that because they're putting together numbers to get to these, we're working with them to, is one item that they pulled for tree maintenance, is that somewhere else, like in the park? We're working on that with them yet, but
Okay.
this looks like to be pretty good to what we have. Change in public works, again, it's a net credit of $7,284. Culture and recreation, what we're looking at is the swim lake. We talked about at the recreation committee the fact that we had to replace AED batteries. We had to, this year for 2015 is when we had, out of the 10 employees, 2 of them were returning, so we had to train 8, which was highly unusual. And so we took on more cost than bringing a trainer in. That's where we're up. We've been aiming for about 48,500. We're up to about 51,704 for last year. The good news with that is that the revenue is up with the swim lake too, so that helps offset that. Community and celebrations. We have combined between the fireworks, the banners, the garland, and the $1,500 that we used to pay to the Legion when they had senior meals there. That totals about $9,500. We did not pay the $1,500 obviously, but we're going to convert that to be a community center operating budget for things that we need downstairs.
Okay.
But we've got about $2,924. We did not spend about $1,600 in garland. Instead, we went and bought those banners, which should start to, obviously, immediately was about a $1,500 savings, and then because we won't have to pay for them going forward, that's a cost that we'll save. But again, for that category, $2,924. And then at the library, they did come in a little bit under budget. This is a little bit of this is part of the paper filing that we have to do because that savings they then took to invest into their heating and air conditioning, which is a capital item.
Yep.
So it's a savings, but it's their $2,200 that they're able to save and spend on their own. The net in culture and recreation then is a savings of $1,952. When it comes to regional planning, we have $7,050. If we would have to hire like the East Central Wisconsin Planning Commission, or if we hired Weyauwega County Economic Development to do any extra projects or the UW extension, that's an item that we would come out of. Right now, we put our tourism project participation. We're in the county's tourism cooperative. That's a cost that we pay, and then our membership in the county economic development roundtable with all the other towns and cities. Not all the towns, cities and villages for sure, in some towns.
Okay.
That's what we paid, $2,864. So that's a savings of $4,190. And then transfers, then this is the $300,000 that we budget to go into our capital fund. So when we talk about the cash that we have to pay for new squad cars, anything that we build and do not borrow for, we come out of this fund. We budget about $300,000 to move over there. What I'm looking at here is roughly taking $55,000 down from that to help offset our increased expense. most of it is gonna be with the attorney fees for those two, for the railroad case. So we have increased expenditures of $80,000, 88. We have $33,000 in extra revenue to help offset that. And what we're looking at then is the difference, about $55,000 to cover those one-time, like the railroad cases. So instead of transferring 300, we'd look at transferring 245.
Okay.
And then the net expenditure change then would be $32,000. So what we try to match up here is the new revenue is what we spent in our extra expense. Does that make sense?
Yep.
And so what we usually do then is, as you do the final amendment, we make that a formalized resolution that gets passed. So,
So are we making a motion for the draft or for the amendment?
well, it's a draft of the amendment. So if you find this to be acceptable, what you could do is recommend approval of the draft resolution 585.
Okay. Is there any big numbers that you're waiting for that would adjust that? I know you said there's a couple.
So the big one is gonna be the transfer, because our auditors have like roughly $70,000 that we paid to ourselves. So it's like we borrowed ourselves the money and we'll pay ourselves back. So what they wanted to record was we took $70,000 out of our budget
And we need that to close it
to
out.
pay
correct?
the TIF, but we're not paying out the debt right away though. So we owe like 70,000. We're gonna keep paying it over the next 3-4 years. So the question I
But
had was,
this would be the
we're
discussion.
borrowing ourselves the money, but
Yeah.
then we're paying the debt off the next few years.
This is the discussion we had about making sure that the TIF
Mhm.
buckets were correct. And
Yeah.
that we knew this one was gonna come.
Yep, yep.
But the other ones are set up so that there isn't any issues with that at the end.
Right, and actually, not to toot our horn a little bit, we've
It
got
was
the
much
preliminary
bigger.
figures, we've got the figures from the gas station and from Agri-Pier, and the values that we put out that we needed to get to start funding these improvements. The gas station, we had set at about $400,000 we're hoping for, and it looks like it's closer to 600,000 in new value, so that means that's significant. And at this point with Agri-Pier, we were hoping for $2.5 million in new value. And the preliminary figures are that it's going up somewhere in the neighborhood of 4.2 million. So
Nice.
we're hoping for 400, it looks like we're gonna get 600, which is all the better. We're hoping for 2.5 million, looks like we're gonna get over 4. Perfect, it's better than what we expected, so.
Yeah.
So it's starting off good, it's some good news.
Pay for Third Street at some point, right?
Yep, yep. Yeah, and actually with that revenue, we're probably looking at yearly about $90,000 in TIF revenue that will start this coming year. And when we spent about $100,000 on Third Avenue, pretty quickly we can get that back too.
Yeah,
So
recover.
that helps.
Yeah, because we actually did that as part of it, so. All right,
Yep.
so with that then, I will make a motion to approve the draft of the resolution 585, which is amending the 2015 budget.
I'll second that.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Because it's a resolution, we'll do
roll
roll call. Nadowski,
Aye.
Appleby,
Aye.
Kemp.
Aye.
Thank you.
All right, next we have considering resolution 586, which is reducing the tax equivalent payable to the city of Weyauwega for the water utilities.
So this is a resolution, typically we pass 2 years at a time. This year, we're just gonna get it out of the way. Your water utility, you're able to, by the law, pay your general fund for what the value of your water facilities would be. So like, we're tax exempt because it's government-owned wells, water systems. But if we were not tax exempt, if we had like a private company that ran the water system, they would be paying property taxes. You have an ability to pay property taxes from the water utility, but typically we haven't. And what you need to do is pass a resolution that says we're going to
I remember this from last year.
reduce the tax equivalents. What they're saying is you would get paid an amount equivalent to what the property taxes would be. The problem is we're probably going to have to be looking at a water
Yeah, 'cause we're
rate.
tight to the number.
And so one of the things that they'll look at with your water rates is, are you paying yourself out of the water utility? And that's basically what this is you're funding our general fund. They're split, but you're sort of funding it.
Yeah.
And if you have anything like that, that doesn't bode well for,
Yeah, it doesn't look right.
you know. So what we'd be looking at doing then is just reducing that tax equivalent to 0 for the year 2016.
Okay.
And only 2016, because if we do consider looking at the water rates, and if a study comes out and says that we should do something different in 2017, then we'll pick it up then. But for now, we're confident that for 2016 we won't.
Okay.
We won't have the water utility pay us back.
Yep.
We'll let it stand. Does that make sense?
Yep. I'll make a
Okay.
motion to approve resolution 586, which is reducing the tax equivalent payable to the city by the Weyauwega water utility.
I'll second that.
And we'll get a roll call again.
Yep. Nadowski?
Aye.
Appleby?
Aye.
Kemp?
Aye.
All right, we hitting cleaning options, or are we gonna push
We are
that?
not, but I think what I might do is I thought that if we held it next Monday, we would have some options here.
Okay.
But what I may do is look at something before the full council meeting in 2 weeks. Basically, what I think we should be looking at is 3 nights a week cleaning, and we have a very low amount that's quoted to us by a single person that wants to do it on the side, and we have a couple very high amounts by cleaning companies, so it's not close.
Mhm.
It's pretty distinctly different.
Maybe we
I
just
think we
talk-
gotta do a little bit more
We can just have a little
reviewing on that.
discussion about maybe how we go about it.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So that's, I would hold off
Fair
on that
enough.
for right now.
Next, we have the checks. So I will make a motion to approve checks 32468 through 32538, totaling $526,173.03.
I'll second that.
Anybody have any questions on them? The format seemed different, so I'm assuming it's in the new system?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Yep.
I noticed that. Right away.
Yep. Yeah, the reporting, actually, we've gotten it up and running, but we've got a couple things that we have to manually push through.
Okay.
Because
How
right now we
close are
can run
to
the
the
reports.
full-
We're running everything out of the new system. It's
Okay.
just, there are the utility billing, the payroll, the checks, and the reporting are all in their own, what they call modules. And you have to have them all talking to each other for the report to come out. So right now we can run a report, but it doesn't have all the information in it.
Okay.
And we will have that within the next week or two here, so.
Okay.
But we are running, we're not running the old system, we're running the new system. It's just a matter of making sure that we're reporting on everything,
Okay.
so.
All right, need a roll call, Patrick.
Nadowski,
Aye.
Appleby,
Aye.
Kemp.
Aye.
All right, are we hitting any of this other stuff, or?
Well, what we got is administrator's report. I did report on the TID values, so it looks like those are coming along a little bit better. We will have our auditor at the September meeting to give their final report, which is what they usually do for a report. We have a little bit of a hang up in the water utility, and we talked a little bit, I think, at Public Works about not making as much money as our bond and our borrowing tells us we're supposed to.
Yeah,
And so
not the
that's
correct
what's probably
percentage
going
of
to trigger
revenue.
a review of our rates. Now, our financial statements aren't final yet, but whenever they are final, we have a window to notify our people that have bonds that we didn't make as much money as we're supposed to, but then we also have to tell them what are we doing about it.
Yep.
So that's one thing. The other thing is that there's a little bit of a hang up in the sewer. Either we've made $80,000 more than we were supposed to, or we didn't make enough money. And what it's related to is they're looking at the interest that we paid on our interim money on the treatment plant. Because when they do this calculation, whether you made enough compared to your debt, they looked at our 2015, how much did we make? And in 2016, they look ahead and they say, okay, what's your debt? Well, we had Ellers and our bond attorneys, who obviously know what our requirements are, what we have to make. They put together the financing package, and the question is the interim financing a one-time project cost that isn't an ongoing thing, or
Does it
is
carry
it-
into the 2016?
do we have this extra
Okay.
borrowing that, basically what it is it's all the interest, because what they look at is they look at what is your debt payment, and then they say you need to make 25% more than what your debt payment is. So our interest that we're paying this year is like 250,000 to get started on the treatment plant, and 25% more of that gets you in the 300-some thousand dollar range.
Yeah.
So the problem is, when you report this, we don't have a credit rating, so it's not like our credit goes down. We're not rated at all. We're not big enough. We could get rated if we wanted, but it wouldn't help us though, because I had asked that question a couple times. But basically what it would be is it would be a note that says, well, you didn't make enough to cover your 2016 debt when we're really paying like double and we're
Mhm.
doing this extra project. And on top of that, we're working with our big customer in town to front load all of their money. So when we front load the money, we would take in all the cash we need to pay the rest of the debt off. So we're dancing a little bit
Yeah.
with, the reason why they have this calculation is to
Yeah.
see how likely it is that you'll pay your debt off. Well, we're also working on getting all the cash in hand that we could then pay the debt off.
So basically, the easiest way to solve this is get that solved.
Yeah, and that's what we're working on, but I just want to let you know that it's something that the auditors may bring up,
Okay.
but we have to tell them that there's an indicator that we may not be able to pay our debt according to their standards, and then we immediately tell them that we probably are getting all the cash to pay their debt. So either we tell them we can't pay it and then we pay it early, or
Yeah.
we'll figure that out. That's what we're working on. So.
Okay.
But other than that, the audit went pretty well. The auditors are very happy about the new financial software because they've worked with this software.
So does that save
They're
us
very
money then?
happy. It should. It
Because
should.
it should make it easier, quicker.
It should.
right?
Yep.
Good.
So that'll be a good thing. Other than
Let's
that,
try the best note.
we can take a look at the wall. That's one thing that Immel had done a test on that wall.
Yeah, I don't.
I think it looks
see-
okay, but I'm thinking that it looked okay back then too. So what they did is they put texture on, and then they painted over the texture. So they didn't come and sand anything.
Yep.
The other alternative, if this doesn't work, is they'll sand completely down to the wall and then start over. And
Couldn't see nothing wrong with it in the first place.
yeah,
I don't see anything. I don't know.
You
Anybody
might.
else?
you
Didn't
saw
see
it
anything
before,
wrong.
right? You know what we were looking at before is it was kind of,
It's like
and
little
it is
lines.
still here.
It's better now.
I mean, I could,
Yeah.
like, in different areas, you can see little lines.
Yep.
But
Yeah.
there I don't, no. So I think it's good.
Good, good. That's all I've got for a report.
All right, next I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second that.
All in favor? Aye.
Mosquito 9.
All right.